Hi, it's Delisa here. Today you're going to watch me make a piece of ugly watercolor. And while I talk about punishing myself for ugly watercolors. Now, so several years ago, I don't even want to say how many years ago, we were in, well, we've been in bad wildfire seasons forever now, but we were in emergency evacuation zone for a wildfire by our house. We didn't have to flee. We didn't get up to level 3. We only got to level 2. But as precaution, we put a bunch of our stuff into storage. And some of the things of mine that went into storage was all my art supplies because those are precious to me, right? And they went in storage and then got them back out. Things were boxed up. And do you know how, like, if you've moved house and things are just like boxed up and it takes you forever to unpack things and figure out where things go? It was kind of like that, but it was worse. I don't know. It was like out of sight, out of mind with my art supplies. Like, I had realized that the kind of art that I had been trying to do, which was working with encaustics, which I love, 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 it is not something that you can do safely without a proper studio setup space with like air vents and different equipment and things. And so I was like, well, I can't do that because I don't have the space to set up to do that in a safe and proper way. So I can't do it. So I just won't do that anymore, and I won't do anything anymore. And I kind of just like stopped doing things, even like these little watercolors. Like I quit doing my watercolor practice, and during that time, my watercolor paints that were in the tubes dried up, and so they're stuck in the tubes right now. Yes, they can be saved and still be used. I haven't got around to doing that yet, but it is a thing that can happen. So they're not wasted. They're not completely ruined. It's not something that I've got to throw them away or whatever. It's not anything like that. But I have been punishing myself for the last few years over those watercolors, punishing myself by not doing my watercolor practice and just letting my skills revert back to basically nothing, so that when I do try to do some watercolor stuff like you're seeing right now, it is not where I was before I quit. Skills kind of slipped backwards a little bit. It happens when you stop practicing. And then so I'm like, well, I'm total shit at this. Why am I even bothering? Kind of attitude. And then the type of abstract watercolor that I was working on before that I really enjoy doing works best with the tube paints, or like the watercolors with in the jars with the droppers, those super fancy ones. I've never tried those, but it's a lot easier to do with the paint in the tube. Yes, you can do it with palette paints, paint in a pan with the watercolors in the pans, but it's much easier if it's in a tube because you're putting paint on like palette knives or credit cards or some kind of stiff edged thing that you can scrape and chunk it onto the paper and move it around instead of applying it with a brush. Like like I'm doing right now. So, so I haven't been doing that, and I haven't been practicing that. And so every time when I try to get out my paints and do something, it's very, very, very obvious that I have not been practicing. And of course, that doesn't make me feel good. It like reinforces the nonsense idea that I don't deserve to be doing watercolor. Like I just should keep things in storage, keep things put away and not get it out because I'm just not good enough, to do it anyway. So, and then when I was working on this piece, I realized something else that I had been doing to myself, which I have been punishing myself for those dried up tube paints by not allowing myself to buy more paint. Like, I could go buy a couple of tubes of paint, of watercolor paint. Like, it could just be like 3 colors, and that would be grand. And I could do quite a lot of practice with that, right? But I haven't allowed myself, like, I have convinced myself that I don't deserve to do that. Like, I haven't earned it. I wasted my paints before, so I don't deserve new paint, even though the dried up tube paints are not wasted. They can be salvaged. So I've just been punishing myself and being a total ass to myself. And I feel like that is something that we as humans do quite often, especially in the way our society is structured to be pretty negative and abusive and not so focused on kindness all the time. But it's something that I think we do as just like artists and creatives. We get really harsh on ourselves because sometimes, depending on what kind of art you're trying to make, what tools that might require, it can be kind of expensive sometimes. And because art can be devalued as being a waste of time or a waste of money because you're not getting paid to do it, or you're not getting paid enough to do it, or it's not a grown-up thing to do, or whatever kind of nonsense things anyone has ever told you um, about making art and being an artist. We can get pretty mean with ourselves, and it's not helpful. It's total nonsense. I haven't wasted those 2 paints because they dried out in storage. It's not like I intentionally dried them out. Now, if I would have taken them and like put them in the trash, yeah, that would have been a waste. But they're not in the trash. I still have them. They're just waiting for me to get all the things together that I need to do and workspace to take them out of the tubes and put them into pans instead, right? Yeah, I'm totally just overworking this piece. Like, I didn't have a plan of what I was doing, which is probably pretty clear. So I'm just mucking about and making things really ugly and overdone. That's fine. Yeah. Where was I going? Don't be mean to yourself. I have just, like, especially when it comes to watercolors and things, just not allowing myself to play or create, not allowing myself to pick up any new supplies that I might need or want to use, and just being awful. And there's no point in it, so try not to do that to yourself. We need to all stop being awful to ourselves. Thanks.